for some reason, and I still to this day don't know why, I decided to just make a bunch of horrible decisions straight out of the gate as soon as I graduated high school. Yeah.
I love podcasts from successful people because I'm inspired by where they are. But one day I realized that you don't have to be where they are to tell your story, because there is strength and encouragement in the road to get there. So I'm Daniel Thomas, and this is where I am. All right, we're live.
Mm-hmm.
Benn Tarr.
Mm-hmm.
How are you today?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. It's been oh shoot. Should not put anything on the desk. It makes a lot of noise.
Yeah, well, lesson learned.
Lesson learned.
Don't let it happen again.
So, how's the job go today? Was it good?
Well, it was really, really hot. There was some malfunctions with the equipment that we rented. I was keenly reminded of why I use AAA almost exclusively.
Yes.
Cam's pretty good too out in Greenwood, but yeah, the place that I use today probably will not be using them unless I'm in a real bad pinch.
Yeah, you got to be in really. It's like a absolute last resort to call the unnamed company.
They were within 5 minutes, and that was like literally the only thing
Yeah.
that almost made it convenient, but it didn't really make it convenient.
The only saving grace is that they have a mini skid, which can be really hard. They can be very hard to come by because they're a very popular thing.
And no one rents it from them because theirs sucks.
It does. Yeah, it's broken down on us
pretty much
more than once.
Pretty much always available.
Yeah,
I mean, not always working, but
that's
always
probably
available.
Why. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so everybody, welcome back to This Is Where I Am. I'm your host, Daniel Thomas. This is Benn Tarr. Ben is the owner of B&B Lawnscapes. He shares a warehouse with me, and he is my friend as well. Anyway, but I hope you all enjoy the following conversation. Also, just to give you guys an idea of what to expect from this show. So right now, I'm planning on releasing an episode every week for the first 4 weeks just to get a little bit of content out there.
Come on.
And then from that point on, we're going to plan on a once-a-month schedule. So it's probably going to be the first Friday of the month. And then... But I got a lot of people that I want to interview and a lot of people, honestly, that want to be interviewed. So there will sometimes be a bonus episode. So it could end up being bi-weekly on certain months.
Ooh, bonus.
So yeah, bonus episodes. I like it. So just so you guys know, there's an official schedule I'm putting out there. First Friday of the month with an occasional bonus if I feel nice enough. So, all right. So Ben, tell everybody, I mean, I know everything about you. But tell everybody else, the studio audience, tell them about yourself, tell them about B&B, where it's come from, and where it is now.
All right, well, I feel like I should start at the beginning. So I was born
Yes.
in San Diego.
Okay.
I grew up in a family where both my parents were entrepreneurs. My dad owned several businesses when I was growing up, one of which was a party jumper rental business. Oh. He owned his own painting company, his own contract painting company for about 20 years. And he also started a charter high school from the ground up. Literally, we had an old roadhouse bar and grill that we completely renovated into a school in my hometown. Wow. And so he did a lot of stuff from the ground up, man, when I was growing up. And my mom owned a daycare out of our home for 30-plus years. And so I grew up in a house where there were 12 kids besides me from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday.
Oh, not siblings.
No.
Sorry, I was like...
No. Now, my siblings, my brother's 11 years older than me. My sister's 16 years older than me. So I grew up in a house being the baby. And I didn't have any really toys that were mine. I had, toys that were communal toys for all of the daycare children. And some of them had my name on them somewhere. And but my social skills were developed very early in life. I mean, I consistently was learning how to navigate conversations and situations with other people from the time I was a little kid, and that translated over into a lot of things in my life. I was in sales for a long time in my adolescent years, up into my early 20s, and various different kinds of sales, retail electronics, business-to-business sales, all sorts of stuff. And I liked it, but I didn't like it at the same time. I liked the energy, but I never really found something that I could stand behind, that I really believed in, that I would spend money on.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so as things kind of progressed, the other thing, my parents were both entrepreneurs and they were both educators. My mom taught preschool as well as having a daycare, and my dad was a college professor as well as starting a charter high school. And so education was always important to me. Just continuously learning new things was something that was instilled in me from a pretty young age.
Nice.
But yeah, I ended up coming through my childhood. My parents are great people. My family was a good family, man, and I enjoyed my childhood. And for some reason, I still to this day don't know why, I decided to just make a bunch of horrible decisions straight out of the gate as soon as I graduated high school.
Perfect.
Yeah, like horrible decisions. And got really heavy into punk rock music. Still really love punk rock music. And
punk rock music is the gateway to all good things.
yes, it is chaos incarnate. And then I ended up getting into drugs and alcohol pretty heavy, pretty early in life. And so from 17 till about 20, 22 or 23, I was bouncing from job to job to job, and couldn't really keep my hands on anything, whether it was a vehicle or a place to live or a career or anything like that. It would always just kind of dissipate after a while, and I'd have to start all over. And I got pretty exhausted with all that. Put my family through some hell, and a lot of worrying, a lot of all that kind of stuff. And so then once I turned 23, I ended up getting clean, and I've coming up on 10 years actually now in November.
Nice.
So that's
pathetic.
I know.
That's ridiculous.
I know. It's not an accomplishment whatsoever.
You should be ashamed.
I am.
Okay,
I
good.
am.
Good.
But
I'm just kidding. Obviously, it's great.
But no, I mean, it was it's something that is crazy, because once I started living right, the incredible thing is, like, things actually started happening in my life that were of merit, believe it or not.
Isn't that crazy?
I know, right? And so in the year 2019, I had been dating my now wife for about 3 years and decided to get married.
In 2019.
In 2019, yeah. And we got married, bought a house, bought a dog, had a baby, and then I started a company all in the same year.
Wow.
And,
good Lord.
It was a very heavy year.
Yeah.
But when I started this company initially, it was a partnership, and it was a three-way partnership. It was originally called Benn and Bubbies. I had a friend whose nickname was Bubby. He was involved in it at first, and he ended up not wanting to be involved in it as the business progressed. I had another partner who came on. Coincidentally, his first initial was B, so when we changed the name from Benn and Bubbies, we just changed it to B&B. And this last year, that partnership was also dissolved. So I'm now the sole proprietor of B&B. But over the 4 years that it took to get here, we did a lot of work together to build this brand name. And today, like last year, we were the gold winners of the Best in the River Valley for landscaping companies, and I'm really proud of that. And I didn't even know that was happening. I didn't even know we were in the running for that last year.
Nice.
A non-disclosure agreement came across our desk, and I was like, whoa. What's this? What is this contest that we've won? It was really cool. It was organic. It was something that made me really appreciate all of the hard work that we had put in, and feel like it was being appreciated by the community.
Right.
And that
That's
was
pretty
cool.
crazy that you didn't even, because most companies, you find out you're nominated for that, and then you go post it on your Facebook or text everyone like, hey, go vote for us and stuff. So that's pretty wild that just completely organically you just won that and had no idea it was even happening.
Yeah, and that's over companies that have been in the business here for 20, 30 years.
Right.
And
yeah.
so it was. I mean, honestly, it was.
And I'm not bitter about it at all.
I know.
Well, it's cool. It's great. Congratulations.
We can go fight about it later in the parking lot.
Okay. All right.
But
no, it's cool.
It was an awesome feeling, man. And the crazy thing is, and this is this is more of like, I've gone through kind of where I came from and how the company came into being, and to give you an idea of a little snapshot of how it was last year when we found this out, that we were going to be receiving this award for achievement, of our peers had just voted us in as the #1 landscaping company in the River Valley. And the day that we got that news, we were wondering if we were going to make payroll. And had to let go of 2 or 3 of our employees.
Wow.
And we were struggling financially. Something fierce. And it was a very daunting time, and it was so weird to get that news at the same time, because they're like, hey, we've got gala tables for $850 to seat all your guys. And I'm like, dude, we don't even know what we're going to do about paying our guys this week. I'm not getting a gala table.
Right.
And so it was a bittersweet thing, but that's kind of how it's been the last 4 years coming up in this. Is it's all kind of been, take the wins when you can.
Yeah.
Take them. Ride with them as long as you can in your mind, and just keep rolling with the punches, man.
Man, that's pretty real stuff right there. And I appreciate you being. That's the whole idea of this podcast, is to just be vulnerable and just show that side of this thing we call entrepreneurship. So thank you for being that open, first of all. But dude, that is legitimately how it is, and it's something you may not even know this that just happened. Do you know what happened here yesterday?
No.
So, dude, it's like probably the hardest thing I've had to do in my business, but I had to let 2 guys go yesterday. And it breaks my heart, because I'm friends and I know everybody that works with me really well, but it became an objective. I just had to not be emotional about it and kind of get over my attachment to my guys, and just realize that the profit is not there right now, and the most bloated expense we have is our labor cost, because we are just strictly just overstaffed. And as much as I hate it, it's just the fact that I had to look somebody in the eye that has a family and just tell them they don't have a job anymore. That, especially somebody that I've known for years, that's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And he was super gracious, took it very, very well. But dude, sometimes from the outside it can look great, but then on the inside, it just is not.
There's a lot of responsibility that goes along with having employees, and a lot of people don't consider that coming into a position of ownership at a business. Like, I am responsible to all of these guys. I'm not responsible for them, but I am responsible to them.
Right.
And
it's a good way to put it.
It is an incredible responsibility, and it's a burden and a blessing at the same time, man. My guys show their appreciation by showing up to work and doing what they're supposed to, and the way I show my appreciation is by giving them a paycheck every week.
Right.
The other things are all nice little add-ons, but when it comes down to it, allowing them what they need to be able to provide for their families and their households is the appreciation that I'm able to give them.
Yeah.
And I've got some riders, man.
Yeah.
I've got some riders that are like, hey, man, if you need to wait a week or 2 to get back to me on that paycheck,
Wow.
We're cool.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
And
I've got a couple like that. Thankfully, I haven't. It's honestly a big point of pride that it's like, because I know people who are like very successful in the industry. That one of my favorite landscapers is Matt Heiner. And, man, I've listened to a bunch of podcasts that he's been on, and even he tells a story about a week where he just had to sit everybody down and say, guys, I just can't pay you this week. And it's just like, and I thank God that is not happening. Because, dude, sometimes things just do not go your way, I mean, even last week was the week ended really rough just because of this rain that came in out of nowhere and kept us from finishing our jobs on Friday.
And the state of Arkansas.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's like we've got 2 jobs we're supposed to be finishing, and then rain comes in. Now we're not finishing either one of our jobs this week, which means we're not getting any checks this week. And then quite a large tax payment came out that I was not expecting. Well, I was expecting it. I just thought it was going to be the next week, and it was like, oh my gosh. And so But we made it work, and I just,
Yeah.
I've got some guys who are that way. They're like, hey, it's no big deal, but I'm like, thankfully I haven't had to do that because I don't ever want to do that to them
Hey,
ever.
shout out to government agencies, though. I mean, they're
You love
punctual
'em.
when it comes to them getting their money.
Oh, dude.
I'm just going to say that right now. When it comes to you getting money from them,
Yeah, no. Thankfully I've got a good ride or die IRS agent that's like, hey, if you can't get my money to me this week, don't worry about it. I can see
Hey,
you
that's
next week.
a winner right there, dude.
That's what we really need is those.
I need to
those
borrow
government
that.
agencies.
I
Yeah,
need to borrow that.
I'll give you your number.
But no, I mean, and I'm grateful that I haven't had to come across that since we've been in business, man. But I have had to come up with those. I've had to come across those conversations where I was telling a guy, two of my guys last year, I had to tell them straight up. I was like, listen, within 2 weeks, I don't know that I'm going to be able to pay you, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you these 2 weeks. And I'm going to promise you that you will get paid for the work that you do during these 2 weeks. But I'm also going to give you any time off that you need to go and find another job because you need one.
Right.
And
yeah.
And I mean that was a hard conversation to have, man. Because it's and the one thing I can say is that luckily my pride doesn't get in the way of much. I don't allow my pride to get in the way of being direct and honest ever. That's one thing that was instilled in me from a child, and it stuck with me through my adulthood, man. There is no such thing as an okay situation to bend the truth, and
right.
To make something sound prettier than it is doesn't make any sense to me. And so being direct and honest is the way to do it. And the one thing I will say is I've been direct and honest with this gentleman right here, Mr. Daniel Thomas, about some really uncomfortable, unfriendly things.
I know more than I want to.
I know.
No,
and some incriminating things. and that's the thing is that, like, man, I've come to this man so many times and reminded him of how good of a man he is. Because this is the thing. Daniel knows what it's like to feel like absolutely nobody has given you a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like one or two people that will actually give you a shot, and it means literally whether your business makes it or not.
Yeah.
And it's the make or break. I mean, for real. If somebody lets you sit on a plant payment, we both share the same landscape supply guy. He's amazing. Grant Bowers.
Shout out to Grant.
He is wonderful. Organics landscape supply here in Fort Smith. Over off the 45. He's fantastic, and I'll tell you right now, that man has saved me on so many jobs just by understanding that I might have to wait until I finish the next job before I can pay him for this one. I mean, he understands that.
Yeah.
And people like that are willing to work with you, they're willing to give you a shot, they're willing to have faith in you. That's the thing that has kept me going this far. And I mean, the amount of help that I've received from Daniel and Grant is astronomical. And not only is the dollar amount astronomical, but these guys have expressed their belief in me and in my company to be able to make it through these hard times, in times where I didn't have that faith. I'd just be totally honest. There's days where you just get beat down, man. There's days where you're wondering if you're going to be able to put gas in your wife's car this week. There's days where you're wondering, if your phone's going to get shut off.
Right.
And that's just being real as a business owner, because I don't skip out on paying my guys. I do skip out on paying myself. It happens. And the last 2 years are the first years that I've been doing this full time with no other income, period. And the year before that, in the fall, I had to get a job at a chicken factory overnight. And for about 3 months, I was working at a chicken factory from 10:30 at night to 6:30 in the morning. And then I would go home and I would sleep for 2 hours. I'd wake up and go do landscaping for 6 hours. I would come home, help out with the kids, get them ready for bed, make dinner, all that good stuff, sleep for 2 more hours, go to work from 10:30 to 6 a.m., sleep for 2 hours, go back to work for 6 hours doing landscaping. And that was every day.
Yeah.
And it was just because it needed to happen that way. My business needed to continue, but at the same time, I needed to provide for my family. And And that's what people don't tell you about at big summit speeches, is the times where they were working 2 or 3 jobs and sleeping 2-hour naps, 4 times a day, just to not lose their minds. And I literally fell asleep with a knife in my hand, cutting chicken breast, standing up.
Oh, jeez.
Standing up, several times, and because I was just so exhausted, man. And that exhaustion is something that not only can no one ever take that from you, because it's such a sense of accomplishment when you get to the point where it pays off, but it's also something that not many people can understand.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Not many people can vibe with that, man. No, there's not a lot of people in my life that would be willing to put their bodies through that kind of stress to come out on the other side and say they still have a business.
Yeah.
You know?
It's so interesting. Yeah. I mean, your health is important, obviously, and your sleep schedule. Obviously, these are important things, but there just comes a time in a man's life where he's got to sacrifice his sleep schedule or maybe his workout routine or something. Now, my health, like my exercise and stuff, that's something that I really do try to prioritize, just because I do have a kid and one more any day now, have a second kid, and a wife who I just want to keep myself fit and attractive for, but sleep is something I will readily compromise all the time, which I probably shouldn't. I mean, there's so much studies of just like how more likely you are to have a heart attack if you get less than 6 hours of sleep a night.
Sleep and health are the same thing.
Yes, you're probably right. But that's when I hear you say that, I mean, to me, that just sounds like a real man right there. The man who just, when it comes down to it and his family has to get fed, he'll run on 2 hours of sleep a day, 4 hours of sleep for a period of time if he has to, and that's honorable stuff right there.
Oh, and I'm not going to lie. I mean, when I started noticing, for the first month or two,
the hallucinations.
I was all right. No, when I started noticing that I was extremely not okay with my daughter talking to me.
Oh, yeah.
While I was awake at the house. My daughter is 3.5 years old now, and when I realized that when she would come up to me and try to talk to me about something that she learned at daycare, or ask me about the 90 boo-boos on my hands, that's a real fun game that we play. I just didn't make time for that conversation. That was where I was like, you know what, I need to stop doing this.
Right.
And I had made enough money at that point to make it through until we picked back up. And so I made the decision at that point to go back full-time onto the landscaping side of things.
Right. Yeah, it's not a sustainable thing to do, but it is sometimes a necessary thing to do.
Yeah,
for a time.
Well, and I've done the same thing for my business solely. I've had months where I was working at least 60 or 70 hours a week out in the field. Working 12 or 13 hours a day for my company, and I was doing it, 7 days a week. I've had months like that too, and grateful. I'm grateful today that most of the time, the way that my crew gets work done and the way that I get to facilitate the work that gets done, we can get everything we need to done Monday through Friday most of the time.
Right.
And in my opinion, that's how it should be. Ideally, we should be able to capitalize on the time that we have during the week that's set aside for work time, work some 10 or 12-hour days Monday through Friday, and get everything wrapped up so that we can all enjoy our families on the weekends.
Right.
And so actually that brings me, my friend Daniel here introduced me to a book here recently. And I haven't gotten anywhere near as far as I know he's gotten, and I'm sure he's probably read it start to finish about 4 times. But
100%.
But we went through our core values. We discovered what our core values are in my company, and one of the core values is family and loyalty. And so if I'm in a position where I don't feel like giving my guys the time they need with their families, I need to take a step back and look at what's going on. And that's not to say that I don't sacrifice time with my family, but I don't like to. And if I have a choice in the matter, I don't sacrifice my time with my family.
Right.
But man, it's been an interesting road That's for damn sure.
You know what? This might be a horrible thing to say. I don't know, but
Say
something I just thought about though when you make that point, because I struggle with that too. I mean, our industry is a long hours industry. Like our industry is like sometimes my guys complain about getting off after 5 o'clock or something, and it gets me worked up.
Me too,
And
dude.
I'm just like, oh my God, are you serious right now? And not that not that every day I try to work them. It's just a matter of, dude, we are not where we need to be on this job. Or it's like this job, you just need to clean up or power wash real quick, and this job is done, and you don't have to come back here tomorrow, and then we can move on to another job tomorrow instead of spending the first 4 hours of the day.
The sun's up till 9:30 p.m.
It's crazy.
I mean, come on.
Not that I expect them to work till 9, and it's like I have
shit.
one person on my team. No, I'm sorry, two guys I think that have kids at home, so, and I get it. You got kids, you want to be home before they get in bed. But dude, it's like, and then I think, okay, so you get off at 5 o'clock. And then I think, I want you to pay attention on your way home of how many lawn crews you pass by that are not even close to finishing up. I even ran into Grant Bowers' crew the other day and saw them and asked him, I was like, how many hours what time do y'all get off? And he looked at me like I was asking him a stupid question. He goes like, what? I was like, what time do y'all get off? He goes, I don't, just when we finish our
when
yards.
We're done.
And I was like, how many hours you work a day? He's like, well, 13, 14 days, I was like, oh, okay. And this is just an interesting point I just thought of, but like obviously time with your family is important, right? But and there's so many Hispanic guys in our industry, and that's one of the most family oriented people groups, like they are so family oriented, and yet they're also one of the hardest and longest working people groups. Like those guys just have a whole different work ethic.
Well, and I think there's a loss in the translation, man. Like being family oriented doesn't necessarily mean that you spend a whole lot of time with your family.
Mm-hmm.
It means that you make sure your family's taken care of.
Right.
And I think that, as far as I'm concerned, that also has to do with me spending my time with my family.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's the case in some of the cultures around the world, because
Right.
it's such a touch and go thing, man. If there is one person who is the patriarch, the provider in the household,
Right.
It's almost expected that you're never going to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember
sometimes they're working together as a family too.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a family if it's like the dad and the kids and the uncles. Sometimes they're all working together too, and that's a thing. But yeah, that's 100% right though. Sometimes the definition of family, that's a good point. The definition of family oriented is a bit different from culture to culture.
Well, and I remember growing up, I hardly ever saw my dad, and he was always working. He was always working out of town. This is when he owned his painting company. He would come home, and it'd be late at night, and I'd see him, and I'd run, and I'd give him a hug, and he'd smell horrible. I mean, like B.O. from hell.
Right.
And he'd just give me a big old hug, and I might not see him again for like days after that, because he'd be out of town working. And I never really put it together until I started doing this, until I had a kid and realized how hard you have to work to take care of a family.
Mm-hmm.
And I was never home, man.
Mm-hmm.
I was working all the time, and I started to realize, like, that's why I never saw my dad.
Right.
He was out there working so that we didn't have to worry about whether or not the lights were going to stay on that month.
Right.
Right. And that's the thing, is that there have been times in my life where I was borrowing, power through an extension cord, for a couple months, or I was taking cold showers because, fuck turning the gas back on.
Right.
It's summertime anyways.
Right.
And so I remember times where I had made concessions as far as my comfort levels go, but it's so different when you have a family.
Mm-hmm.
I could literally live off of canned green beans and tuna every single day,
Sure.
every meal, and be totally fine. My kids, no, they're extremely picky.
Mm-hmm.
They want what they want, and I feel a sense of responsibility to make good food for my family.
Right.
And honestly, if I didn't have a landscaping company, I'd have a food truck. I'd love.
I could see you having a food truck.
I would love to make food
What
for
kind
people.
of food?
See, that's the interesting part. I love making Italian food.
Okay.
But as far as street food goes, there's not a whole lot of choices with
Sure.
Italian food. So
True.
it'd have to be some kind of Italian Mexican fusion
Right.
awesomeness.
You're not Italian, are you?
I am.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, my
Oh.
mom is. My mom's 3/4 Italian. Or no, my mom's actually full Italian, full blood Italian, and
Oh.
my dad's half Italian,
Oh.
quarter Irish, quarter English.
Oh, wow. So you're 3/4 Italian.
Yes, and that's where the red and the blonde come from in my
I
beard.
see, okay.
So yeah.
Interesting.
but
I probably knew that. I mean, of course I knew that. I know everything about
Yeah.
Benn Tarr.
Yes, yes.
This is just for everybody else to know more about Benn Tarr.
So one of the other things I want to talk about, since we're talking about struggles of being a business owner, how many times have you had to make the decision to finish a job or start another one so that a customer doesn't lose their mind?
Oh, man. Yeah, it has definitely happened. Almost happened last week. Yeah, almost did. Well, and she's a super nice lady, and it's not like she hasn't freaked out or anything. It's just that I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, it's taking forever. We've got to get this job started. And in my own mind, I think she's going to lose her mind if we don't get over there and start. But she's been very understanding. She's great. But no, I have definitely, I've definitely done that. I think it's been, well, for instance, tomorrow we're going to Bella Vista for a job that we started probably 3 weeks ago, and it's supposed to be like a 2-day job, and we started it, and he was supposed to have the pavers there for us, and he didn't. It was a paver patio, and so we did all the prep and base work, and it was fine. Like, that kept us busy all day, but then I was like, well, we can't come back until you have the pavers here, because there'll be like 2 hours of work if there's no pavers here. So then we just went and just worked on other jobs until he texted me and said, hey, we've got the pavers. And so, but then again, it's like now we're in the middle of these other jobs. And so I'm telling him, hey, I mean, I'm trying. We were supposed to be there today, actually, but I had to call him yesterday and say, hey, Dale, like, you're going to hate me, but like, we got to get this job. Like, this job was supposed to be done early last week. We were supposed to start the job that the guys are finishing up right now. We were supposed to start it not this past Wednesday, but the Wednesday before that. That was when we were supposed to start it. And then it just rained like every morning. Just like Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, just rain. That would just rain us out until like 11 o'clock. And so it just kept holding up the other jobs. So we didn't get to start this job until this Monday, or this previous Monday, like not yesterday. Today's Tuesday. Not yesterday, but the previous Monday we finally started it. And I thought we were going to finish it. We might not have, but I thought we were going to finish it this past Friday. And then boom, rain just came in that morning too. Just put us out of all of our work that day. Or not, we got out there in the afternoon, but it wasn't enough time to finish either one of the jobs we were on. So yeah, that's a really sucky thing. And so then today comes around, and we were supposed to be up there, and Dale's a very understanding guy. He's super chill, and he understood it. And he wasn't mad about it at all. And that's another thing too. Communication is a big thing. If you just communicate with them and let them know, hey, this is what's going on. Usually they understand, but if you just kind of hope they don't ask you, that's kind of when things don't turn out too well for you.
What I've and I talked about it earlier, man. Direct, honest communication has always been important to me, and I found that's never done me wrong when it comes to customer service. Right. Now the conversation is a little bit more, what's the right word? Touchy. If there's tens of thousands of dollars hung up in the midst. For instance, I've got a job right now. We're finally back over there. I'm so happy we're back over there. If you've ever heard people complain about contractors when it comes to like building homes, they're like, oh, they say they're going to take 2 months for them to get the materials and blah blah blah, and it's like that's the complaint is the availability of materials on that end of the industry. When it comes to our industry, it's the weather. Right. The weather will push so many things back, and
weather's everything.
And so we started this job in late February, and I figure, okay, we got the month of March. It's not going to rain in March. It's April showers bring May flowers. Right. And it rained the entire month of March. And it started raining like 3 days after we had started this job. We started excavating a pad for a large 650-foot flagstone patio with a built-in corner bench and fire pit. It's going to have a little slab built out on it for their hot tub. We're running electrical through the whole thing. It's going to have 220 wired for the hot tub, and it's going to have some 110 outlets over on the underside of that bench. It's a beautiful design. I'm super excited to get it done so I can have an awesome showpiece. And it just started raining 3 days after we got started excavating. And so I can't run any heavy equipment over there, and it just kept raining. It just kept raining. Like every week, it would rain 2 or 3 days out of the week, and it would be like, I mean, coming down. And it saturated all the ground. We tried to go back out there a couple times, and we'd get out there and we'd get one successful day with some heavy equipment. The next day we would come out there, the heavy equipment would be sitting there, and it would start pouring. And we just kept running into that over and over and over again. And this is a job that we had received a sizable deposit on, $16,000. Now they had $10,000 worth of material sitting at their house,
right?
So it wasn't like they had an idea of whether
Just
I was trying to
took the
skate
money
out
and
on
ran,
them.
yeah.
But it was, I had some skin in the game at least,
Sure.
you know. But it was one of those things where we started it in March. Here we are in July, getting
Almost
back
August.
out to it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, almost August, and finally, but this is the thing, the reason why they did not lose their ever-loving mind about all this is because I constantly kept in contact with them. And in March, when this happened, I had a conversation where I said directly, it might be August before we can get back after this, depending on what the rain does.
Right.
And if I hadn't said that then and planted that seed of worst-case scenario in their head right then me trying to chase that later on, you know, I've always found that if you're locked in for a job, man, there's no point in trying to sugarcoat anything with that customer from that point on.
Right.
Just be honest. Give them the worst case scenario so that if you come in behind it and it turns out better, they're happily surprised.
Right.
You know?
There's really a few things more frustrating, like a mechanic. You know, it seems like this always happens to me. The mechanic calls me and he goes, "Oh yeah, you know, it's probably just we're hoping it's just this, you know." And he kind of they always usually, it's not just one, it's most mechanics in my experience. They usually try to get your hopes up for the best possible scenario, you know. And then it seems like it just never, for me anyway, it just never is the best possible scenario. And so you're thinking,
alone.
you're hoping, oh, okay, it's just going to be like a $400 fix, and it ends up being a $2,000 fix. The other day, it ended up going from a probably $150 fix, and at the end of the day, it was a $4,000 fix for one of our trucks.
And could you imagine if we were able to bill like that in our industry?
Yeah, honestly,
I mean,
though, that's what's kind of crazy. That's what's really crazy.
Well, and that's the one thing that I will say, a saving grace has been in this last season, time and material bids. I'm not scared of it.
Right.
I'm not scared. If I'm going into a job and I can't reasonably say what I think it's going to take my guys to get this done, then I'm going to charge them hourly.
Right.
And I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not apologetic about it at all. If it's a job where I don't know what I'm going into, then I'm going to charge hourly for the labor that we need to do to get it done. So
Yep. That's not a bad move.
it's scary
Yeah.
because when you think about it, you know, a lot of customers don't like doing it because they don't know what the price is going to be going into the job. But the thing is, if I'm not comfortable bidding the job, that's the only way I'm going to be comfortable doing the work.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
So
You know, I had a question. I was thinking of a question earlier. Hang on. You know what? Hold tight for just a second. I need to take a picture of you for the thumbnail.
take
Sitting
a picture
there.
of me.
Yeah, there it is. That looks good. Now I can
Sultry.
make a proper thumbnail for this video / episode. So, you know, we were talking earlier about how when you won the contest, or, you know, things look good on the outside, but then on the inside, you know, you just have these months of struggle. And, you know, and sometimes you almost wonder if you can even make payroll. Not just you, but say you as in we. I'm there all the time, you know. Not all the time, but sometimes, yeah, you're just like, oh, boy, I hope I get the right checks that I'm supposed to get today.
Yeah.
If I don't, I'm going to be in trouble. Why is that? Like, why do we, and that seems, and this is that's one of the reasons this podcast is happening, because that is such a common thing amongst entrepreneurs and business owners. And it's no secret statistic that 80% of small businesses fail in the first year, I believe, or maybe first 5 years. And then
I think it's 5.
And then 90% of the 20% that's left over will fail
10 years
within the next 10 years,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like you're getting like 2% of businesses that last. But why? You know, why do we how do we get ourselves in these spots?
Well, I mean, for me, and I can only speak for my business and the struggles that we've gone through. And So when it comes to my business, one of the issues that we faced was that we didn't allow growth to happen organically. We wanted to be a larger company than we were.
Right.
And we wanted things to happen and clout to be recognized before it had been earned. And that was something that, I kind of struggled against and then went along with, and struggled against and went along with. And partnerships are hard. If you don't agree on everything, a partnership is rough, man. And no two people ever agree on everything.
Right.
So
it can be. If you don't agree on the right things. I heard it said that if two people in a partnership always agree, then one of them is not necessary. So like there is a something to be said for if you're united behind the same vision and the same goals, having a couple different approaches to battle out and figure out which one's best, or just two simultaneous approaches. Two people working towards the same thing in different ways. As long as you can row, quote, row in the same direction.
Exactly.
Right.
As far as core issues go,
right.
There has to be a level.
That's
of
when
agreement.
It's bad. Yeah.
Yeah. And but what had happened for us, and looking back, it's always in retrospect that I can understand, how to give some advice to entrepreneurs coming up in the game. So if you're trying to start your own business, turn your listening ears on. I wish that the first thing financially that I had focused on in my company was building a prudent reserve. And just to define that real quick, a prudent reserve is 3 months, at least 3 months. I'm leaning more towards 6 months at this point. 3 months of complete operating costs put into a separate bank account that is not linked to any kind of payments for anything. If you can do that, if you can have 3 months worth of business cost set aside, and if something happens and you don't have any revenue for 3 months, you're good.
You're good.
You got your payroll covered, you got your rent covered, you got your overhead covered for 3 months,
right,
while you regroup. You know what I mean? And
or if you need to make an emergency purchase, like if one of your trucks just blows up and you need to buy another truck, it doesn't completely wipe you out to buy something that might be expensive, right?
I don't know how many times I've been one flat tire away from shutting my business down.
Yeah. And to be clear, I do not have a prudent reserve. I mean, I sure don't.
I don't either.
Which is why I realized I've got to cut down we're bloated. Like we're just bloated in our labor right now, and it's eating up our profit, because it's our biggest expense, and the ratio of cost of what I'm spending on labor to our production output is so out of whack. I thought this just can't. I've got to fix this, And so that's just trying to cut back on the amount of people we have, so that we have a profit, so that we can build our reserve back up that we used to have, so that it's not such a sweat breaker when you don't get to finish the job on Friday, and then you're like, oh man, I'm not going to get paid. Am I going to be? It's just because that's just the worst thing ever, ever. And just one week it's not going to work out, and you're going to have to sit your guys down and say, I can't write you any checks, and that's terrifying.
And that's the thing. I mean, this is nobody starts a business to struggle. But everyone who starts a business struggles.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact.
Yeah.
The goal is to have more time to spend with your family. You usually end up having a lot less time to spend with your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
The goal is to get to a point where you have some financial stability. I have had absolutely nothing resembling financial stability since I've owned this company. And the thing is, though, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. All of these times that I've been downtrodden, all the times that I've been fully experiencing the lack of preparedness that this perpetrates in my life, it's prepared me for the times where I'm going to be able to make those decisions to set myself on a road that's going to allow me to spend more time with my family, that's going to allow me to have financial freedom and security. And really, it's all about being able to allow yourself to make the moves that are necessary in the moment and let the other ones pass you by.
Yeah.
Because that's been the biggest downfall for me, man, is trying to jump on situations or opportunities that were not really lucrative. They just sounded good.
Right. It's a little flashy. Feel good to say that. You just say, oh, yeah, we're doing this.
Yeah, like for instance, one of the business models that I'm adopting this year is we're not a commercial company.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do commercial jobs. There will be an occasion where a multi-property owner or something like that will come to us, and it might be a situation that we can capitalize on and they can benefit from equally. But most of the time, when it comes to the stuff that we do, we're geared towards homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
Individual homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
And the premiums that we charge for the quality of work that we provide is reflected by the people who are paying for that work.
Right.
And I don't want somebody who's used to paying their painter $80 a room
right.
to paint their apartments
mm-hmm.
to be using my company.
Yeah.
Because that's just not the quality or the premium
right.
that I'm trying to provide.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree, and that's why we started a pre-qualification process for clients before I ever go out there to even talk with them, as we kind of put them through a bit of a test, which is not trying to be intrusive, but it's just sort of a script that we take them through when they call in, just to see, are they willing to let us be the professionals here, or are they going to try to tell us how to do our jobs? Do they have a healthy budget to work with? Or, because I've had it happen before where I spent hours, went to meet with this person, very nice people. They walked me around. They wanted lighting. They wanted landscaping. They wanted this, just all this stuff. And I made them a bid, sent it to them, and then they said, oh, this exceeds our $1,500 budget. I thought, oh my God, what? I thought, that doesn't even buy the plants that you asked for. It doesn't even buy half the lights you asked for.
Did you forget a zero?
Yeah, exactly. You mean, oh man, it's crazy. And I think one of the reasons that we find ourselves in these situations, but yeah, and you're 100% right. Nobody starts with the intention of struggling, but honestly, another good thing I hope comes out of this podcast is that people who want to start something can have a realistic view that you have to struggle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just not like struggle, not like you have to almost not feed your family, but just you have to be willing to grind and sacrifice and just like lose some sleep and sleep less. And it just is, because guess what? If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And if it was easy, then 90% of the businesses wouldn't fail. There's a reason they don't. Here's another thought I've had recently. There's another contractor or coaching podcast I listen to called The Contractor Fight, and it's really good. And one of their things they really harp on is to ignore the going rate. He said, because most businesses don't have any, this is something I've learned in the last year or two, is that most people have no idea what their real cost is. They just look at their materials and their labor, but they don't pay any attention to what their daily overhead is, So like you might know it costs me this much a month, but when you break it down to this is how much it costs you to exist, right?
Yeah.
And divide that by 22 or 25 working days of a month, you might have $800 or $1,000 of daily over. So it means if you don't make $1,000, you didn't even clear the cost. How much it costs you to just simply exist, right? So to factor that into the bids, okay, this bid is going to cost me, I'm going to spend $500 in materials. I'll spend $200 for the labor, okay, and so that's $700. So if I charge them $1,200, that's $500 of profit. It's like, no, it's not. Because if that took you one day and your daily overhead is $700 or something, well, you actually lost $200, right?
Yep.
So you have to go materials $500, labor $200, daily overhead $700. So what are you at? $1,400, right? So if you charge anything less than $1,400, you lose money. If you charge $1,400, you strictly break even, and that's not it's not worth your time. So
it's not why you're in business,
right? And so for us, sometimes we have to just say no to those jobs, because I tell people, hey, look, I would have to charge you $1,200 just to show up at your house, because I have overhead that, like, what you need to talk to is a lawn care guy. You need mulch in your flower beds. That shouldn't cost you $1,200, but I would have to charge you $1,200 because otherwise I'm losing money. It's like, and I'm telling you shouldn't pay me. Like, if you want to, I'll take it, but I'm telling you should not pay me $1,200 because somebody else would charge you $300. But I think when they say ignore the going rate, that's such a bold thing to say, and it makes people like us so uncomfortable, because we make these bids and we think, oh my God, they're never gonna accept it. They're gonna freak out and think, well, the other guy was gonna charge this much. And I realized we should ignore the going rate, because the going rate puts 80% of businesses out of business.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like that's why 80% of businesses fail is simply because no one fails because it's not worth it, right? Either because they just go broke or they go bankrupt and they literally can't stay open, or it's just not worth it to them.
Well, I think a lot of the reason why small businesses fail too is because it takes an intestinal fortitude to be able to withstand the constant barrage of issues that need to be resolved as a small business owner. And I mean, dude, if I was not as relaxed and self-aware as I am today, I promise you I would have lost my fucking mind a long time ago.
Right.
I mean, it's just the amount of decisions that need to be made and decisions that are make or break. They need to be made correctly the first time, you know?
Yeah.
And those kinds of decisions, it's enough to set a lot of people over the edge, man. And I think the biggest thing, man, don't take yourself so seriously.
Right.
You know, like, we can make mistakes. That's okay. When we're responsible for other human beings and their well-being, it's not as okay. But we still don't need to demonize ourselves for making a mistake or making the wrong decision in any given situation.
Right.
But the thing is, man, like, I think another aspect that people don't think about a lot, man, is that like, I had a customer the other day who needed their lawn mowed. I told them that I would have to charge them $100 a visit. She was like, well, I'm on a fixed income. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. And what I see customers do a lot of the time is that they'll tell you how much they're willing to pay, and they'll wait as if I haven't been involved in sales for half of my adult life. And they'll wait for me to respond. And the only response that I give nowadays is, well, you know, I've got some other guys in the industry that I trust their work. I could send them your way, and maybe they'll come in lower than I do. You know, because the thing is, my price is just that, my price. I'm not going there to give the customer their price. I have my price that I need to charge for my guys to go out there and do work.
Right.
And being unapologetic about what you need to do to get work done out here is something that comes with time. When I was new, I couldn't do that.
Right.
Somebody look at me like that, and I'd be like, man, okay,
shoot,
all right,
I'll do it.
we'll do
I'll
it.
drop it. Yeah.
We'll do it. Okay, stop looking at me like that.
Yep.
And you know, taking the time to learn how to properly bid things, and right now the next impasse that I'm finding myself at is taking the time to translate that onto paper, to make each one of the roles that I've filled for so long a turnkey position that I can put somebody else in and trust that they're going to be able to do it appropriately.
Right.
You know, the formulas that are in my brain for bidding a job need to be on paper so that when it comes time, I can train somebody with a piece of paper and say, this is how you bid a job. You know, and that takes so much time, and my time is stretched so thin already. It's rough.
Oh, dude, yeah, that's exactly that's what I struggle with too. Is I've got to, and again, another reason why we had to cut back is because that's what needs to happen, and the time is just not there for me to do it. Because to do that, I need to be in the field more, because I need to be out there helping them make these written turnkey processes. And I can't be in the field because I was having to just spend all my time designing, bidding, and selling to keep this many people busy, you know. And I thought, man, we just got to cut back. We just got to cut back to make this work. But that's just an absolutely crucial point for me right now, is to get what's in my head on paper and let other people do it, so that, again, this is the whole point, so I can have more time with my family and I can have less financial stress in my life, so that my kids and my wife don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be undergoing the stress that I'm undergoing now, you know. Well, I'm about to have to wrap it up, but tell me, you've kind of already told me, but you've told us where you are, you've told us where you've been, so tell me now, where are you going? What are you trying to strive towards right now? What's your kind of immediate future goal?
By the end of this year, I want to be in a place where my company can have a prudent reserve in place. I want to be in a place where all of the secured and unsecured debt that has led us to this point is rectified and over with.
Right.
I don't want to have to to wonder whether I'm going to be able to cover the expenses month to month.
Yeah.
I want to have my good friend Daniel Thomas paid in full for all of the wonderful help that he has given me.
I would like that.
I know he would. He would really like it. You don't understand how he's looking at me right now.
But if you go to YouTube, you can understand it.
Yeah, you can.
Tune in.
Can. But I'd like to get to the point where my company has financial stability, because I know that once that happens, that my personal financial stability and my stress level will just be in a much better place for me, and that will directly affect my family in a positive way, man.
Yeah.
I've got a pretty solid crew right now, which is a hard thing to say.
It is. In
this industry, it's very difficult. But I want to be taking care of them the way that I need to, and the way that they feel comfortable with. I'd like to get it back to where they're W-2 employees. That's one thing that I would like to get back to. Right now, they are independent contractors, and they're handling their business, man. But I know that it's a lot more comfortable to work for a company that offers, health insurance benefits, all that kind of stuff. And I'd like to get to the point where we have an infrastructure that supports that kind of work environment. Yeah. So within the next year or two, I'd like to see those kinds of changes happening. But before any of that happens, I'd like to have a prudent reserve and all of the unsecured and secured debt that my company has right now behind us.
Nice.
So
I feel like that's all right. That's a good goal, I guess.
It's reasonable.
It's reasonable. Heck yeah. No, that is an honorable goal. Well, Ben, thank you for coming on and sharing and being vulnerable with us. And I hope some people are encouraged by our conversation. And we'll do it again. We'll do it again later and get an update by the end, maybe after the end of the year, and see how close you got to your goal.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Heck yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed Ben today and our conversation, and please listen next time. Guys, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of This Is Where I Am. If you were encouraged by this, please share it with a friend, leave us a 5-star review, and please don't forget to subscribe to the show. And of course, tune in next time for our next awesome guest.